Okay, I believe live streaming is on. So welcome to this Kroxylicious community call on the 8th of April.
Unless you're in New Zealand, in which case it's the 9th.
Thank you. These calls are scheduled in UTC, so it's the 8th. Right, let me just share the agenda. Screen sharing, agenda. We're seeing my screen.
I am.
So we said we would share a link to this doc. Okay, so we've got a couple of things on the agenda and a space for anyone to add any other business. So unless there are objections, let's get started. So the first I added onto the agenda was just to talk about our progress towards our AI policy. I thought we had a good discussion last week where we talked about our AI policy and what we needed to do to move things forward. Since then, I see that Tom has raised a PR on the main repo, putting, well, if I remember rightly, but I think he said that was blocked at the moment on the on our contributor policy, Poll 27. So I thought we'd just work and see if there's something we could do to move that forward, because I'm sure we'd all like to see that land sometime soon.
Yeah, I'd love to see that land because, yeah, I'd love to just basically get some of this Claude stuff in the main code repo. I think that for other people, as you know, as much as it's kind of inconvenient for me having to shuffle, make use of it, but keep it out. So on the one on the policy repo.github repo, there's just a few questions there which, you know, sort of Sam, who's the author, yeah. Right. So I don't know. I know this PR originally had some changes to one of the other files as well.
It had there was originally an agent.
That's right. Yeah. So I know he's taken that out, but he didn't. He hasn't yet replied to any of those outstanding comments. Like mostly, I'm pretty fine with where this is, but I would just like to get responses to those and just sort of bottom out the discussion.
Right. So is this a call to get more eyes on this, or is it just between you and Sam just to address those final last things?
You know, if people haven't seen my comments, then yeah, they might want to take a look because it, you know, they might find them interesting or not. You're entitled to whatever opinion. But yeah, I mean, somebody needs to move that forward a little bit. I mean, I think technically, you know, enough of you have voted that we could merge this even with those outstanding. But
okay. So we can record. Okay, Sam. See this merged. I'll leave it at that. Okay. Next thing on the agenda there was one proposal, which was also opened by me. So share this tab instead. So the context of this proposal is we have a feature in the Kroxylicious operator which allows you to refer to a stringy CR from your Kafka service, being the CR we use to define the upstream cluster, the up cluster being proxied. And it's basically a shortcut. It allows you to avoid having to declare a bootstrap URL. And it's kind of a building. It's not a fully feature at the moment. It'll work for kind of very basic use cases, but we're kind of still iterating on that. So the feature is rather in its infancy. Stringy API v1 beta, which strims phasing out, and it will disappear in the next release or two. I think it's either the next release or the one that's following it. So we need to have a plan to migrate away from the stringy v1 beta 2 API to v1. We need to decide what to do, how to go about that migration. I have put together a proposal where I'm basically suggesting that I see two options. One is we just upgrade to stringy v1 for our next release. And if we do that, it has a disadvantage that anybody using stringy 049 or 48 or before, the feature no longer work for them. They would be incompatible with stringy 048. The other alternative is programmatically support APIs at once. Programmatically have the operator sniff which version of the API is out there and adapt to either v1 or v1 beta, which would have the advantage that users as well. In this proposal, I'm arguing that the cost of doing that programmatic sniff and using the generic APIs in the Fabric in the Fabricate client is quite a lot of work. It's going to be quite a lot of tricky testing. So I'm making the argument that we should just make the cut to the new stringy API for our next release, and basically document the fact that anybody using the older stringy versions needs to upgrade or not use a feature. So I hope I gave a reasonable summary of this proposal. I realize that probably nobody's had a chance to read this because I only put this up an hour or two ago, but this is an opportunity to ask questions or make comments now, or of course we've got the async approach as well. Anybody got any comments now? Or?
So just one quick question from me, Keith. So did we already? I've not kept as close quite as I should have done, but did we already have on the v1 beta 2 APIs operator, don't we?
We do, yes. It's at quite a kind of primitive state at the moment. So at the moment, it's merely bootstrap URL, but it will consume,
right,
and it only works for the plain use case. What Shubham is worth support for to automatically consume the trust from right. Stringy. Stringy is producing its own certificate authority. cert, but that's not delivered at the moment. So the feature is there, it is usable, but it's in quite a kind of primitive form at the moment.
Okay, that all sounds what you're proposing then, the sort of not sort of supporting both the APIs sounds reasonable, because it doesn't seem like people would be really using that in anger yet, given the primitive nature of the functionality at the moment, and the fact that you can always just use Bootstrap servers to achieve exactly the same thing at the moment means that there's a workaround for them. So it seems reasonable to me.
So are we documenting in our already released versions that this won't work shortly because of an API? So if you're stuck on an old version of Strimzy, then you probably don't want to be using this because it will stop working when we have the next Kroxy release.
We haven't got that documented at the moment. Obviously, we will be documenting the breaking change as part of the next release. I suppose we could put something out in a post or something if we wanted to. I'm not sure that's the best vehicle. Maybe something on the mailing list.
Do we have documentation around this early access essentially feature right now?
I don't remember that. I can't remember if it's.
I'm having a look. I can't see anything in the operator guide. So maybe we ask.
It's in the CRD.
But
yeah,
I'm more relaxed about doing this without explicit documentation in the docs if the current feature is not in the docs.
Yeah. Okay. It's not in the docs.
So
okay.
I think then, to my mind, it's fine to only announce this no longer works with old version of Strimzies when we release our next.
Okay. Okay. I quite like to review the proposal in more details and leave any comments. If people are happy with the proposals that stand, please mark it that way, and we can move this thing forward. I should put a comment on here. Let's just go back. Discuss and call on
You can put a space between attendees and broadly before you press that button. Sorry, just being a pedantic arsehole, but it's...
Okay, right then. So, are there other items people want to discuss, or shall we just look at triage? Okay, let's move on with triage. Is it sharing still or not?
I can't see it anymore.
All right. Okay, I'm not quite sure what happened. Okay, so this section of the call is where we discuss any issues that have been tagged with discuss synchronous. So we've got 2 of those at the moment. One is enhancements to the entity isolation filter. So the reason we raised this issue was to document everything that is essentially missing in the entity isolation filter, particularly the support for topics. So we kind of the topic ID, the fact it's missing support for topic IDs, the fact that when we start processing topic ID, how we're actually going to, sorry, I'm just trying to reabsorb this quickly. Oh yes, there are issues if for some reason the filter receives the client provides a topic ID that the isolated view shouldn't have access to, we need to decide on its behavior. There are a number of places in the Kafka RPCs where they've started to use regexes for topic name matching. There are issues with how that will work with the entity. And there are also some RPCs where they're introducing cursoring, where you essentially get pages back, and that would be extra work for the entity isolation filter, because it needs to be prepared to ask for a page, work out if it's got a full page, if not, make another request, join the results together, make sure all of the indexing and things works for the subsequent requests. So there's probably quite a lot of work. There's probably an investigation task here to actually bottom out feasibility for to support topics properly, to work out what we have to do with things like where the RPC uses regexes. And I guess there's probably going to be space for 1 or more proposals when we get to this. Is that a reasonable summary? Has it dropped? Can you hear me?
Yep.
No, I think the cogs are wearing.
Right, that's fine. It just makes Fortnite to go where I froze a number of times.
Yeah, and see if you can't see if Tom is moving or not due to his ongoing issues with running from a VM. Yes.
So, what do you want to discuss? Like you've sort of highlighted that there are a number of difficulties just coming from the Kafka protocol, which are making the entity isolation stuff a lot harder. If we want to support the whole of the Kafka protocol, then this filter is going to have to do a lot of work, it sounds like. And some of these problems sound like really hard. The regex thing is difficult to solve. For example, what was the
I had by adding a label was just to make sure there's awareness amongst us all of, we've got quite a lot of work to do to take this filter forward and make it support topics. So that was what I really want, to make sure we're all on the same page, and so we could think about maybe how we chunk this work up for the future.
So that you seem to be operating on the assumption that we should do all of these things, and I think we might. Well, I think that's worthy of discussion.
Yeah, I agree.
because there's quite a significant opportunity cost in pursuing this and trying to get complete protocol support here in the entity isolation filter, because that's going to soak up a lot of time that we then can't spend on other things.
Absolutely, yes.
And so there's one thing that I'd like us to discuss is, do we think that full protocol support for entity isolation is something that we should be planning to work on in the short to medium term? That it's good enough for what it does at the moment. It kind of like proves the concept, and it works for sort of the everything except like sort of some of the more recent protocol changes. So I think for the majority of clients and applications today, this would be adequate. Obviously, roll forward a few years and it might be there might be more demonstrated need to actually do some of that. I think where we are right now, that opportunity cost is quite high. I think there's a lot of things that we could be doing elsewhere in the proxy that might actually be more sort of valuable to the project as a whole. That's just my take. But I think it's worth discussing, whether we want to do all of these things, any of these things right now, or in the short term.
One thing that's not clear to me is if it would be possible to just implement partial topic isolation in terms of, like supporting it for RPCs like fetch and produce, and leaving things and maybe leaving APIs like consumer group heartbeat and things locked back to an earlier version, so we don't need to bite off the regex problems. I don't know how much value that would that give users useful functionality.
And what I was taking from what Tom said a couple minutes ago is we could definitely split this between the easy stuff and the recently introduced stuff that probably isn't widely used right now, so we could avoid the regex problem. And I think that is definitely worth something proposing, and then the committers can make a decision as to whether we want to break up the work like that, where we might.
So it sounds like there's a piece of analysis work to actually work out if we could break up the topic isolation into smaller chunks, where each of those smaller chunks gives the user a useful piece of a useful increment. It solves some business problem.
That is what I took from what Tom was saying. But I should get Tom to verbally agree that is a useful thing to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be good to actually sort of start seeing people using this and getting a bit of feedback on it, I think. Because if you're asking me, my suspicion is sort of supporting topic IDs is relatively simple. We've sort of been doing stuff in that area for other filters anyway. We think we understand what's involved there. But until you've actually got people using it and telling you sort of what works, what doesn't work, then it's difficult to really sort of assess the value in me saying topic IDs, I could be wrong, right? There could be sort of someone that's desperate to use this with regular expressions, for example.
So, Tom, are you suggesting that we pause making any further changes to this until we've got some feedback from users who are using it for group IDs and transactional IDs? Or are you saying let's take a kind of simple step forward, do the topic ID work, leave the regex stuff to one side?
If it was up to me, I would pause at this point. I can see this being such a time sink. I would probably do topics, yeah.
So I think you and Keith are
it's
kind. I just want to be clear on whether I'm hearing the right, so that we do the simple top answer work, but we don't try and solve the regex problem.
Well, there's two things. There's topic IDs and there's supporting topics as an entity. And I think we should definitely support topics as an entity, and probably as part of that, the extension to using, supporting topic IDs in the protocol that's a little bit of an extra step from that first step, but I don't think it's a huge extra step. But I do think without having topics as entities that we can isolate, then people aren't going to be able to use it.
Yeah.
Right. I think it becomes a very sort of narrow use case if you don't actually need to isolate topics IDs and transactional IDs. We're cutting off the sort of people that could try this out and give us feedback if we're not supporting topics at all. Does that make sense?
That certainly makes sense to me. So there's potentially two stages there: supporting topic names, then the second stage would be supporting topic IDs without regexes, and then a third stage is there's all the complicated stuff now that we have people actually using it.
Yes.
We're not keen on doing that until we have people using stages 1 or perhaps 1 and 2.
Yeah. Is it possible to split apart topic name from topic ID, given where the protocol is today, where the newer versions of the protocol speak exclusively in topic IDs? I think if we want to do the topic entity, then we have to do both topic name and topic ID in one go.
I don't think that's true. I think you can use a client down to just names. That's what we've done in other filters. Whether that's what we want to do, if you want, to bite off both at once, Keith, then I'm not going to tell you that we should, do things as minimal as possible. But I think hypothetically you could just do topic names and not do IDs.
Yes,
we'd
probably
right.
be regressing.
Just to do it all at once.
Yes. I think we'd be going back several API versions on a number of APIs, because topic IDs have been around for quite a while.
Yeah, they have definitely been.
I think my preference would be to try and do the topic names and topic IDs at the same time, leave the regex on side, so APIs would lock down to a version that didn't use regexes.
Okay.
So I'll attempt to summarize that. I won't do that now offline because there's probably quite a bit to write down, but I will summarize that offline. Okay.
And
so next one.
We'll say goodbye to Mr. Yang, but he has to drop now.
Yeah, dropping in 1 minute. So yeah, if someone could take a look at this one, it'd be good. It was just that we've got a pattern showing up in a couple of our filters where on the request we want to compute some stuff and then have it available on the response path. So this was proposing adding something to the filter context API to let them stash an object path to put it into the framework's control, so that we can, have one place that knows that we should always pop it to avoid memory leaks, and that kind of thing. But, yep, we can drop now. That should probably be as tagged as design proposal needed, since it's public API.
Yep, it is already.
Good. If anyone says it's overwrought or not worth doing.
Yeah, I think this would be worth doing, because every time there's a couple of things that sort of have cropped up when writing sort of filters multiple times now, and this is one of them. And yeah, the benefits that Rob pointed to there in terms of, well, it's tested, it's, you know, avoid memory leaks. Yeah, those are all difficult to argue against. The other one is around sort of having a more declarative way of saying what API versions a filter uses. That is also sort of something that we sort of tend to downgrade client behavior. You didn't actually have to write so much code to do that. You could just say, okay, this API, you know, I support these versions. Have the runtime sort of figure that out for you.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'll dig up the
that's
other
a whole
issue,
different thing. But those are the things that I sort of stumble on like every time I try and write a filter.
Cool. Thank you. I shall
Okay,
drop now.
thanks, Rob.
Bye.
So with this issue, I really like the sound of this API. I recognize the value that's being proposed here, and I think, you know, really relieving filter authors of having to write this themselves and get all that code right. That's a no-brainer. I like the look of the API that's been sketched out here. Obviously, as Rob was saying, it does need a proposal where we're going to that more deeply, but I think this would be well worth the effort. Tom's already said that he likes the sound of it, so.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this.
Okay. All right, so that's what happens. So we've talked about issues tagged, discuss sync. Do we want to go on with issue triage now?
Still got 10 minutes, haven't we?
Okay. I feel like there's some we've talked through here already.
We can't see your screen, Keith.
Oh, right.
There we go.
You're sharing that. Oh, you're seeing that now?
I was for a moment. There we go.
You can see it, or at least I
Right.
can. I have no idea what's on Tom's screen.
Okay. Where should we start? I feel like we've spoken about the Talis KMS plugin before.
Yeah.
That still requires some investigation to understand the last part of doability. Triage label onto that one. And with the next two issues, I haven't done my homework. I said I would rewrite these two issues in a slightly different way. So I'm suggesting we skip over. Okay, allow custom name prefix in multi-tenant filter configuration. So this issue has a PR open at the moment. Okay. Right. I'm not sure I have any comments on this at the moment. I need to go and take a look at that PR. I think the intent is that that PR is landed once it's in good shape.
Yeah, I think so. I think that PR is addressing this this issue, so we should probably, if our intention is that PR, I think we can acknowledge that at this point and say that that is the intent and mark this as triaged.
Are we going to have to apply a similar change to entity? For topic
Entity
3, don't do
isolation
yet, but
prefixes in a different way. So there's a pluggable API,
right.
which you could theoretically plug in any API to do any sort of name mangling you want.
So option 2 for this use would be wait a bit until we've done entity isolation topics as well.
Yes, I'd rather like the entity isolation materialize before making that promise to a user.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. No, I'm just, yeah. We should probably indicate that our expectation is that multi-tenant filter and that.
Yes, I think Rob has
Yes.
started a conversation along those lines on the mailing list. I don't think we quite want to say at the moment replaced by entity isolation.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just.
I think we want to leave a bit of wiggle room.
Yeah. But would be if we start seeing lots of people trying to use the multi-tenancy filter, and then we're saying, actually, we want to can this now.
Yeah, that is a concern. Okay, opt-in filter to inject rack ID UMA fetch requests for AZ aware routing. This one from Sam. Should we leave this one till we've got Sam on the call to discuss?
Yeah, that probably makes sense. I don't think this is a simple thing.
Okay. Okay, so the next issues are the ones that Rob has raised in order to highlight the gaps in the current multi-tenancy filter. So I think we should probably just mark those as triaged. I'm not sure there's a point discussing these individually.
No, I agree.
Triage, does that work? It does. Amazing. Okay, next one. Having common TLS configuration record is not working. Tom, this one's over to you.
Yeah, so we've got this in the API module. We've got the TLS sort of tree, I guess you could call it, with sort of different ways of configuring and key stores and things. We're reusing that in an increasing number of places. And this was prompted in particular by the reuse of this thing in the work around sort of selecting the TLS certificate to use in connecting to the broker, where it's been reused again. And they, in that PR, they needed to add some extra property to the TLS object, I think. And that kind of basically sort of highlights the problem, is that we kind of created this thing because we wanted to have some configuration API consistency around how we configure TLS in all the different places that we configure TLS. But the problem is that all the places that consume that TLS, all those filters and whatever else that then sort of make use of that object, now need to be updated because they support this property, except in that one place where it is supported, right? And this, we've kind of got this as well in other sort of places where it's just like, we've got this common TLS thing, but not all the places that consume TLS support all the functionality that can be expressed there. And when we had a small number of uses of TLS, that wasn't the problem, but it's becoming more of a problem, right? And every time somebody wants to add something to it, then we've got to fix up all the other uses of the TLS object to be able to detect the fact that somebody's configured a thing that isn't supported at that use site. So I think, either we just think, oh yeah, that's fine, and up to doing that work all the time forevermore, or we recognize that this was the wrong way of achieving API consistency, and basically step back doing this, deprecate TLS on that whole tree of things, and basically copy it into each of the places where it's used and adjust it based on port, and we're that way. I think that's the only sort of alternative that we've got, really. Yes, we could try and do more clever things with maybe sort of interfaces and so on in Java, but I'm not sure it really gains as much. That's what this is about. That's the problem, and that's a sketch of what I think a solution, the only solution to that problem is, but the alternative is to just suck it up.
Yeah, I think you are highlighting a real problem. One place I noticed this was during Carlos's work on record validation, and he was wiring up trust, which only supported some trust types and not others. And then there was like the Cipher Suite controls, all of which had nowhere to go in Apicurio world. It all got a little bit ugly. So yeah, I'm supportive as making some change in this place. I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay, I mean, actually tremendously difficult with a coding agent. The right sort of few prompts, it's probably not a huge piece of work. So, but it does need a proposal. So I guess I can write one up.
Will do. Oops. Okay. Okay, that's brought us up to.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Speak to you
Thanks,
soon.
Keith.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye
Rob.
bye.
Cheers. Bye.